Hello, this video is about the Swift Boat Veterans Group and the possibility we may be facing that there are this group or similar groups that are underground, that have formed, that are out in the world as vigilantes, causing problems for other veterans, political persons, or civilians. So the first Swift Boat Veteran Group disbanded in 2008, and if you kind of look back, you're like, well, what exactly, how can a group like this form? And I think they formed to attack John Kerry. And I always kind of thought it was very strange, like they claimed to know him, and for truth, justice, and the American way, they formed this vigilante gang, and they were going to bring out the truth to, like, John Kerry, you know? So I have such a group of veterans that I've come across, and I realized, like, they're all sharing the same information, right? So I have a Swift Boat Veteran Group. So I'm not sure, like, what their goal is, you know? So for a long time, these guys have been calling me by my wrong military rank. And I don't know if they've ever really called me by my rank that I had when I left the military. So I think they're under the impression, like, if you're anyone in there in E2, they're entitled to, you know, that much more, you know, life or benefits or something. So I was an E4, right? So I think some of them think they're entitled to, like, to my family, like the resources of my family for, you know, trying to get jobs with my family or date my family, the women in my family, or even my girlfriends. They're entitled to, you know, date my girlfriend, and then why don't they play along? Like, why, you know what I mean? So, like, then the other thing, and so they're not aware that life really doesn't work that way, you know? So, the other thing is that, I took the ASVAB test. I got a really good score, so I was allowed any job in the military. And the ASVAB tests were given in high school. And at that moment, I was also in an electronics program, ROP program, Regional Opportunity Program in California. While you're in high school, you're trained for a job, so you can go work after high school, right? So I did that in high school, took the ASVAB. So after high school, I was in college at 17 years old, and I would go and challenge the final exams of some of the classes, and I would get the credit. Some classes will allow you to do that. You just talk to the teacher, get permission, and say, you know, just give me the final, and that's it. They write it off, right? So the electronics, I did that for a lot of classes in electronics because I had taken the ROP program. So when the military recruiters started calling, this information was made available to them. So I had, like I said, I could have had any job in the military. So I signed up for a guaranteed school to work on nuclear reactors, right? And my second choice was electronics or something like that, and then medical. So in quick order, the jobs are trying to be manipulated in the schools. Anyway, I ended up being in the medical field as a medic, and then I went to laboratory school, right? So I had an associate's degree. Okay, so that was, and the ROP training. So I began to formulate an opinion that possibly not the proper people are getting the jobs in the military. Like, someone's trying to get their operatives in and be placeholders for those jobs. So anyway, I went to lab school, and this was really apparent that someone or something is at work in the military trying to get their operatives in and force their way into the jobs. So after I had 2 duty stations that would last 2 years each, and so then the first year was schooling and sort of OJT in the hospitals and laboratories, right? So that's 5 years, and then I was going to get out, which I did, go in the reserves, go to college, and go back in after I finished college. Well, the Swift Boat Veterans Group, I never got paid for the reserve duty. So I kind of just like couldn't make it. I had to get a job, right? Like all these really bizarre things that you never hear of, and people will tell you a lot of strange things like that, right? There's some group that are trying to get their operatives into the jobs. So then I worked for the Treasury. I got a presidential appointment for the Treasury Department. So my rank continued from the military into the Treasury. So that formed the Swift Boat Veteran Type Group. Really banded together over that one. They were trying to see if the reason I worked for the Treasury was to get a presidential pardon. Was I going to get an appointment to something that they wanted their operatives into? You know, they've got their own operatives. So I started investigating these military veterans that were attacking me, and every one of them was a military disgrace. So you could imagine. So I'm where I was at that point. I'm like, okay, this person. Well, no wonder they're a military disgrace. They're up in everyone's faces trying to block their lives, ruin your lives. So there used to be like witch hunts for gays in the military. I don't particularly remember anyone telling me I was investigated in the military for any sexual, homosexual or anything like that, right? When I got out, these Swift Boat veterans were like, oh, we're going to find the gays in the high school and throw it in your face, And there was, I don't even know, there was like people that were suspected of being gay in the high school. But I think that the proper military, the functioning military, doesn't investigate anyone under 18. But the Swift Boat veterans, the Neo Swift Boat veteran groups, want to investigate people, try to find the homosexuals before the age of 18, which is, I don't know, I don't think that that's a good idea, and it's not productive, or it's kind of a waste of time, So these Neo Swift Boat veterans, anything that hits the news, they're going to apply it to their target. So now I have 5 degrees. I'm going to complete a post-bachelor certificate in clinical laboratory, and so I remember like having my transcripts going from office to office when I was in the hospital, and they have their own information that they think is the information. So I'd have to come up here and I would look, this is my college transcripts for this job. You can't say shut the fuck up, pig, but to get they're circulating like their own information. So when I got out of the military, my medical records are completely false. It's not my blood type, and it's not my psychological profile. And they had third world country people writing evals, and so I ended up with some sort of third world eval. My evals were misspelled. They didn't use English sentences. It's like those shirts that they walk around in Japan, that it's like English letters on the shirts, but it doesn't make a sentence, right? So that's how my evals and military records are written in the military. So I took the nationwide police exam and passed it, right? So unfortunately that completely invalidates like some of their garbage that they put in my record. And then my blood type, I went to go donate blood, and it was a totally different blood type than the military said it was. So it was almost like they were cutting and pasting things to build my military record. I don't know what happened to my real military health record, right? So then when you're in law enforcement, so I went into security, among other things. I did become an engineer, but some of the security jobs I had the psychological exam, right? It's totally different than the military psychological exam, and you're like, well, and then the military psychological exam is like, where is the real one? Like somebody cut and pasted some kind of a lying about my military records, right? They're circulating. There's a Swift Boat veteran group, Neo Swift Boat veteran group right now, circulating, and even faked group of the fake records for my military. Like, it's even worse, right? So I have the standard exams. I've not only that, like all the college degrees and everything. So the government jobs are like that. There's no one that's supposed to be in those jobs are not in the jobs in any position at all. And so that's the state of affairs. And it's these Neo Swift Boat veteran groups that stalk me. I'm stalked around, all over by these groups. I don't know if it's one group but like where it's a terrorist group, and they're circulating information, right? They don't even have my military rank correct. Like I'm almost like I gotta take my college transcript, because then it translates into like operatives being placed in your workforce. They try to penetrate into your workforce wherever you're working, possibly, or your neighbors and shit. And suddenly your neighbors get empowered. Oh, I could, since they're going to ask me questions, I'm empowered to really ruin the guy's career, right? So they look like, people think that joining the military is a sign of weakness, because then they have control. They could ruin your life by making up stories and stuff like that. And some of the stories are something else. Wow. So like what it ends up being is like there's no one qualified to be in the jobs. And they should, I don't know what the solution is, or everyone I've investigated was a military disgrace in this Neo Swift Boat veteran group. So I think they should keep to themselves. Something, go into construction or something. They shouldn't be like going in and trying to mess up someone's security or law enforcement career or engineering career or something like that. People go to school to get training to have the jobs, and they should have those jobs. There shouldn't be a Neo Swift Boat veteran group, or the Swift Boat veterans group. I still haven't ruled out that there's an underground Swift Boat veteran group, the same group that's going around trying to destroy people's families and stuff. They did that too. They'll try to destroy your relationships in your families. And so I don't know that's their tactics, right? I think a lot of the, in the mind of a homosexual, the relationship between men and women can be ruined as a tactic, including their families. Okay, that's kind of not all of them are doing that, but like this, some of the political Neo Swift Boat veteran groups, they see, the ruining of families as a political tactic. Okay, so that's not good, and I just hope that there's not like a widespread problem with these Neo Swift Boat veteran groups. Like I said, I once I find out like they're lying about something, they're lying about the careers, and then their disgraces and stuff like that, I kind of like go, well, I kind of feel sorry for them. If you looked at all the Swift Boat veterans in the media, you kind of feel sorry for them, like, well, why are you trying to interrupt this guy's political career? It's kind of weird. Isn't that weird? I think that's kind of weird. Anyway, that's my take on the Neo Swift Boat veteran group.